Aloha, friends. Welcome to the Living Stars call. This is our second call of the month. Um, it is mid-September 2025, and I'm Sarah Poe. Some of you are watching us for the first time. Some of you are maybe new to Living Stars or to my creations in the world. And I wanted to share a really special Living Stars today on the path to peace because of what's happening in the collective right now. Living Stars is a space where our community meets twice a month to contemplate the call of the stars as a script of God, a map, patterns that we witness and we contemplate through the eye of our heart to transform through awareness. We become aware of what's happening. And we use this space and time to not only become aware what's happening out there, but to look at where we have been before. So we look at planetary alignments through a curiosity and contemplation space to see where have we been, where has this happened before, where can we take the lessons from the past and move forward in a good way. Where can we look at what's happening in the planet right now and contemplate the higher calling for us? And naturally, when we look at the higher calling, the shadow will show itself, and the shadows are really revealing themselves right now. In this space, we work with what's called Astrosophy. And you might not have heard of Astrosophy before. Astrosophy is star wisdom, astro, with Sophia, which is the inner wisdom, Sophia, the innate wisdom within each of us in connection to, I'll use the word God, because we all know that word. We also know that that word has been translated in many ways. You could say Alaha, the breath of life. Mary Magdalene said the good, and I love that. It reminds us that God is good and we are created in the image of goodness. And so we contemplate the stars in a different way. We use ancient astrology as well as the current alignment of the planets and the constellations. And we not only use the constellations, we use all the stars. And that is a different way to look at astrology. We also observe through the eye of the heart, through a space of love and grace and goodness. And we also observe this in an opportunity to take responsibility for ourselves. So the invitation is, where am I responsible? And that looks at, where am I responsible for the gifts that I came to share with the world, my own innate genius and gifts? Where am I responsible to offer love? Where am I responsible to take responsibility for some things that have happened to you that might have been out of your control, but how we respond and react is our responsibility. So let's dive in today. Actually, before we even begin, let's just drop into the breath to be in this space right now. The breath is the shortest distance to God, to our divinity. And so let's just allow our breath in this moment, simply becoming aware of your breath. There's nothing to do, nowhere to be. Simply allow yourself to come into a space of receptivity. You don't have to force your breath. You don't have to try hard. You simply receive. Aloha, thank you, thank you, thank you for this moment, for this space that we get to be here on earth. Thank you for this breath that allows my soul to be in this body now. Thank you for the message of hope and goodness and love, and for the invitation of the path of peace today. Unveil yourself, the good, the love, the grace, the higher calling, the truth, the light, the way. Help us to make your mark, the will of God, the will of love, the will of grace and goodness, above our own selfish will. Maybe this moment is an opportunity. May this moment shine a light that ripples into the hearts of my brothers and sisters around the globe, reminding us who we are as love, unveiling an ancient story, a story that's written in the stars to remind us who we are and to point us in a direction forward that's good, in wholeness, in love, in grace. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wanted to start today with a story of Hiawatha, an ancient indigenous story passed on orally, but one that felt true and powerful for us today. It's a story of the Tree of Peace, but it begins with the story of the Tree of War. There were 5 tribes that had been having disagreements that had led to division and war. And instead of being in a time of peace and prosperity, they had entered in a time that was they were harming one another and themselves ultimately. And so, as they did in indigenous ways, and indigenous councils would come together, they decided to come together, the 5 tribes, to see if they could come to a resolution together. And so, in indigenous culture, there was not one leader, but there was a council, a circle of elders, a circle of guides that led through guiding, through the way of guiding, through the way of the law of the land, the law of the heart, the law of nature, of mutual reciprocity. And so these 5 tribes decided to come together, and they would come together around a tree. So that we could call this tree the Tree of War, because they would come together and they would meet to have conversation. And not only did the circle and the council of each tribe come to this space, but the people would come with them. So they would journey all together. So imagine 5 nations, 5 tribes all coming together. It reminds me of Standing Rock, this story. And my daughter and I were able to be there for over 7 months and to enjoy the remembrance of our indigenous ways and of what a circle of council can do. And so the people and the council came together. And no, the people really couldn't hear what the council was saying. Their energy was there, their spirit was there, their essence was there. It was a coming together. And ultimately, it was a coming together to leave in a good way, in a better way than they had come. And the way that they held ceremony was that they would come to the land, they would come to this tree, and for 4 days, this meeting was for 4 days, but the first 3 days, there was no talking. There was only stillness and presence, silence, being. They would allow themselves to anchor into the earth there, to anchor into the energy of everybody together, to hopefully anchor into a place of peace within themselves before they even entered into the circle, to ground themselves so they weren't reactionary emotionally, but they came in grounded presence. So for 3 days, they would be in this place. And then on the fourth day, they came together, the council, to come and share. And so each of the tribes shared their stories, their words came in. And when it came time for Hiawatha to speak, Hiawatha went to this tree and whispered to this grandfather tree and said, "Grandfather tree, are you willing to give your life today for the greater good, for the greater peace, for a greater message that will ripple out from this moment forward and backwards in stories, so that the story that's written here today will be told by our sons and daughters and granddaughters and great-granddaughters for generations to come? Are you willing to sacrifice your life today for the possibility of a greater tomorrow?" And the crowd got silent and they waited to listen. And Grandfather Pine said, "Yes, I knew that this was my last summer. I knew that this was the purpose, the greater purpose of my life was this moment. And I am willing and ready to give up my life to be reimagined into something more. Reincarnate, rewritten, a story rewritten." And so Hiawatha proceeded to talk. He said, "There's one way forward. There's a path to peace forward. And it's not on this side or this side. It's not being right or wrong. It it begins with this." And he held up his hand. Hiawatha stood with the hand here and then put the fingers together. And what Hiawatha said next, the people already could feel in their hearts. 5 tribes, separate, but when they came together, what was possible? What could happen when the 5 tribes came together in unison again to be one? Then he went on to describe the tree of war. This tree represents war, division. We've come here to solve our problems, but we are still in division. And so the roots, what do the roots of this tree represent? These stories, these false beliefs, these wounds, they all make up the tree that has created war and division. He said, "We are going to take this tree down today, but not with weapons and not with any kind of tools even. We're going to use our hand." And he invited everyone to come around the tree and with their hands to dig up those roots, to dig up the soil. The word soil and soul are very similar in meaning. And so together, everyone came and they began to dig at the soil and to feel the roots in their hands and to pull the soil from the roots, to pull the soil, the soul, and separate it from the roots, the wounds, the old stories, the beliefs that had created the war. And together, with not even much time, before long, all the roots were exposed. The soil separated. The wounds, the stories, the old roots that had created war exposed for everyone to see. And then with one hand, Hiawatha pressed against the tree and it fell. It fell to the earth. And what was left was a cavern, kind of an open wound there, right? In the middle of the earth, of the Mother Earth. You could even see the water beneath it where the aquifer was below it. And then the next invitation was by Hiawatha was to throw all of the weapons of war. Any weapon that you have with you that has ever been used to harm, throw it into the cavern. To kill, to murder, to harm anyone. Anything that you've used to harm another or yourself, put it in this hole. And we can imagine in this that that's not just their swords or their knives or any kind of physical weapons, but it's their thoughts, their words, with the ways that they've harmed one another, their selfishness, their greed, the disconnection from the divine, any of those things that had caused harm being thrown in. And of course, the hole gets filled up. And then they take that soil, that soul, and they cover it. And it creates this mound. And Hiawatha stands on the mound and says to the people, our way forward is now in peace. We put this behind us. We're writing a new story now. And we will plant a new tree here, a tree of peace. Right here where there was once a wound, and right here where there was once war, we will create a tree of peace. And so they did. And there that tree blossomed, and for a long time there was peace and prosperity amongst the people. But Hiawatha also told a prophecy of a time that would come when strangers from other lands would come to this land and they would colonize it. They wouldn't understand the ways because they had already been disconnected and separated from the true story, from the truth of who we are as one. And in their pain and in their wounds, they would bring that to this land. They had forgotten who they were. And in their pain and in their wounding, they would wound again. And they would destroy the tree of peace. And then he told of a time that would come, and a tipping point would come again, though. All the rainbow tribes of the earth would come together, and they would remember this story and it would come on a time when the elders were tired, when the story was all but forgotten, that only a few hearts still held this story in their bones. But those few stories would still be powerful because they carried the truth. And they would awaken the others to this story, to the path of peace. And so they would come together, all races, all tribes. Because when that tree of peace was destroyed, the wind took those seeds, those leaves, and spread it across the world. That story was still spread. And he speaks that we will all come together again and remember, and we would have a great tipping point and come to know the path to peace again. Plant our tree of peace now where war has been, digging up the roots that have caused harm again within ourselves and in others. And then we would enter once again into a time of peace and prosperity. But it's up to us how we react. It's up to us to pave that middle path to peace. And I see a story written in the stars that's showing us a way forward. And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. Today is September, just a second here. Yes. Make sure we're recording. Today is September the 15th. It's the middle of September here, and there's a lot happening, especially in the United States. Some of you watch and listen from other continents, But as many of you know, there's been an assassination that's happened publicly in the United States, and a lot is being brought to the surface. And that's what we're going to go into today. And we're going to bring our hearts into a contemplation of the way forward in peace. What is my responsibility to pave a way forward for peace? We come into the space of living stars as daughters and sons of God, living stars, living lights on earth. Rudolf Steiner said that a time will come when the ancient astrology, just as the Magi experienced astrology, will live again in a new form, and it will be aligned with Christ. Christ, the anointed, the light. And when we contemplate this through the eye of our heart, through our heart's eye, we will once again look up to the stars in curiosity and awe of their spiritual script, and we will remember. And we believe that that time is now. I say we look up because if you can go back to some of my other videos and look at the history of tropical or Western astrology, to where we've been looking down at a map instead of sitting at night and actually looking at the stars and the planets, contemplating, being in presence and stillness, as well as knowing exactly where they actually are right now. So in Living Stars, we're looking at the exact placement of the stars. We look at true sidereal in two ways, which is we're looking where the planets and stars actually are. We look at the sidereal that is 12 even zodiacs, as well as true sidereal, which is the 13 constellations, and we look at the actual size of the constellations and where the planets are in relationship to that. So if you'll notice here, we spend a whole lot longer in the sign of Virgo than we do in, say, Scorpio or Libra. Okay, those constellations are smaller, and so we observe both ways. And again, tropical or Western astrology is not wrong or bad. We're not here to say that. There are different observations. Religion means to reunify with the divine, reunify with God. And so astrology was the original religion because that's what we used. We used the Magi, studied the patterns and the cycles of the stars. Tropical teaches us more about our human egoic self, or our the Matrix, as you could look at Neo in the Matrix. Astrosophia looks like at the connecting us with the galactic center, or the eye, the heart of the universe, and we look at all the stars, not just the zodiacs. So if you'll see here in the middle, September 15th, here the sun is still in Leo, preparing to move its way to Virgo. It's right on the cusp. Okay, it begins its way here tomorrow, is it? Yeah, to move into Virgo. So the sun moves into Virgo on the 16th. What we're going to contemplate today, and usually what we do in Living Stars is we meet on the first and the third Mondays, and we go over the next few weeks in the calendar, not to contemplate the higher invitation for us. How can so week one in September was Gene Key 7. We contemplated virtue, a virtuous heart, what guidance looks like, and how that shadow of division has played out in my own life and then in the collective. And so the invitation for us is to contemplate and remember the higher aspects, to be in devotion to those, so that within us as living stars, we ripple that light into the world. What I want to talk about today is where we were last week in the United States. What was the sun illuminating? Now, yes, mostly we look at where the sun is in Living Stars. We look at the sun because the sun gives us the most energy, gives us the most to look at here. But we also at times look at different planets if there's something that we want to contemplate. And so today we're going to actually contemplate Mars, because Mars has, in patterns and cycles of our story in humanity, showed us something about war. Mars is passionate energy, and at the highest level, it is a passionate heart. At the shadow, when we're still in wounding, it causes division and war. So it's a great teacher for us. It can show us the higher invitation of our passionate hearts. So we're going to look at the sun. We're going to look at Mars. We're going to look at the north and the south node in comparison to what we've been experiencing. What is the greater call here? Okay. We're going to begin by looking at Charlie Kirk's assassination on September the 10th, and Archduke Ferdinand and Sophie, who were assassinated June 28th, 1914. I wanted to look at these two because I have a whole series called The Eclipse of Grace, and I've been contemplating through astrosophy mathematics what were the things that happened that led to World War I and World War II. And are there symbols and stars and patterns in the heavens right now that could point us in a good direction forward? So we look back in order to look forward. I've not only looked back then, but I've looked back to the formation of the United States, going over the last 400 years or so, and conjunctions and eclipses, and to see where there's a story written in the stars. That's what the Magi did. The Magi were in contemplation. It's different than meditation, but it is a sort of meditation. It's to be in devotion to listening to the voice of God within our own hearts and to be able to witness the divine, to witness God in everything, in a tree, in the stars, in a flower, in ourselves and our brothers, even in our enemies, maybe especially. Okay, so there are three things that I want to point out. The sun was in Leo. It's preparing to move into Virgo, right? We move into Virgo tomorrow. Um, Sun was in Leo, Mercury's in Leo, South Node is in Leo here. In the 10th house, which is the archetype of the father or masculine energy. The North Node is in Aquarius, along with, right here in 4th house, which is the mother. If you look here, the South Node was in Leo, and the North Node was in Aquarius in 1914. So let me explain this a little bit to you. I'm going to stop the share for a second. The North Node and the South Node shows us expansion and contraction in one way. North Node is expansion, or the story we're here to write, what we're here to grow into, the energy that's moving us forward, what's possible. The South Node is the foundation, maybe the places that we've been contracted, the lessons we've learned, and it can support us in the growth of the North Node. When we look at our individual soul blueprint, we look at where we've been and where we're headed individually. And Saturn becomes a great teacher of a time of our story. Teaches us about contraction and expansion, which is this human experience, the polarity of being contracted and expanded. In contraction, sometimes there is a experience of absence of God. There's never an absence of God. There might be a wounding or an experience where we perceive a separation. Okay. Expansion is coming into unison again with the divine. And then that our arrow is pointed straight and true, and we have clarity and we move forward in that direction. Okay. So I want to look at those two things, South Node and North Node, and how that story is played out. Okay. So the other part that we're going to talk about, so if we look at right now, we are in an 18-month period of Aquarius, 18 and a half months. We spend in our physical lives, in our individual lives, we have 18 and a half years in north and south nodes. So your north node returns every 18 and a half years. The Saturn return teaches us about this. But in our collective, every 18 months, we move. The north node moves. So we're in an Aquarius 18 and a half month period. We were in a Pisces, and now we're in Aquarius. What does that mean? We're going to talk about. We're also in a period now that takes us from the foundation of the divine, or we could say a patriarchal run world, into the fourth house, which is the divine mother, Virgo, nurturing. And so there's an experience of balancing divine masculine and divine feminine right now. A call for the more of the mother, though, because the North Node is the energy we want to be immersing ourselves with. So Aquarius and the North Node right now is this moving us towards the future in the essence of the divine mother, the divine feminine. Okay? All right. The other thing we want to look at is Mars, because where Mars is in any type of contemplation of war and contemplation of peace is what we want to look at. So we're going to look at Mars in Virgo here. And then we'll look at this story, which will be a little different story about Mars, because Mars was in Leo. Mars is in Leo. Where's our South Node? The old story here is in Leo. So the South Node was in Leo here and Mars. So we're going to kind of contemplate now as we're moving forward, what does the story of Leo and the story of what happened here play in the story that we're here to write? So we'll look at what the Mars invitation, so the invitation for peace here, I look at Mars as an invitation for peace if we look at the higher aspect. And the lower aspect plays out in division and war because we're still at a shadow level. We're still at fear. We're still at that lower vibration where we believe ourselves separate from God. We're acting out of a separation from God. So that's what we're going to look at today. Okay. The North Node, I also work in what's called the gene keys, but I do the mathematics for the gene keys in Sophie. And if this is your first time to be in this space and contemplate this, I have some other videos that you can watch. But I handwrite human design and the gene keys through Sophie. And that's what we're going to be looking at. So according to the Sophie charts, the North Node right now in this time is in gene key 49. Gene key 49. Again, I'm gonna explain this. There are, in each North Node period, we go through about 6 different gene keys because there are 64 gene keys, 12 zodiacs. So we experience around 6 of these gene keys in each North Node period. So we'll experience one gene key for a few months. So we're contemplating that. It's getting immersed in us. We have a deeper opportunity for alchemy in that story. So the North Node for us right now in this present moment is, yes, Aquarius, but it's a different gene key than what the North Node was in 1914. The city here that is calling to us is rebirth, and revolution is the gift. It's inviting us to look at our places of reaction, where we're reactionary, and where reaction has caused conflict. Mars, conflict. Right now, well, last week, the sun was in gene key 4. And I'm having allergies, sorry. The sun was in gene key 4 this previous week. And our south node is in gene key 4 right now. So the gene key 49 and gene key 4 are partners. They play a role in supporting each other. They're two, if we look at gene keys or DNA, how they partner, gene key 49 and gene key 4 partner. Our fears that create intolerance and reaction partner together. We need to understand those together and contemplate them within ourselves together. Because at the highest level, this aspect of forgiveness is what helps us create a rebirth. The gift of understanding is what we need for the revolution. And you also see Mars giving us an invitation for peace by overcoming these shadow states within ourselves. Yes, if we're reactionary and we're intolerant, it creates what? Conflict, war. But when we can alchemize those shadows within ourselves, what happens? We're able to have the gift of understanding, which creates diplomacy, which is the revolution we've all been wanting, the revolution that happens only within ourselves. That's the only way we change the world for good, is to be initiated within ourselves. That's the initiation that's being called for. And how does this play out together? Peace on earth, the way of forgiveness, a rebirth. That's the greater call for us, and we're going to dive deeper into that. Then I also want to point out in 1914, oh, by the way, just the idea that the Sun and the South Node are both in this. Okay, so the South Node is where we have been. It's that foundation. The foundation of understanding and forgiveness allows us to take what's happening right now and write a story of rebirth and revolution. This is the foundation that guides us to this. Okay. So in 1914, what was happening before the war? Because that story is playing out right now. The North Node was in Gene Key 19, which is the great change. It's the future human being. So is there a story that was being shared with us for today? The city is sacrifice, the gift of sensitivity, and it was the invitation to overcome codependence. Wow. Let me see something really quick here, in case any of you want to dive a little bit deeper. Let's see, 19. Yeah, 33. So the South Node was in Gene Key 33 then. Wow. I could do a whole week's long series on all this, so I'm going to move a little bit quicker here. And those of you want to dive deeper, we can. So another thing that I want to share is the ascendant sign was in Leo. In 1914. Ignore this right here. So let's go back here. The ascendant is right here. The ascendant is the first breath of the day. It's when the light of the sun first comes up. It's pointing us, it's giving us the appearance of what's to come. And I just want to point out that in Sophie, the ascendant was in 21 degrees Leo, the same exact as the South Node today, 21 degrees of Leo. So the ascendant sign in 1914, the first breath, the first light of the day, the first to move across the heavens to point us towards this next cycle, 100-year cycle, right? Was the way of forgiveness and understanding. There was a message in the stars on that day. The exact same degree of the ascendant is the exact same degree then as our sun and our South Node right now. Mars in 1914 was in Leo. And the gene key is 31, which is humility and leadership that overcomes the shadow of arrogance on the planet. I love the gene key of 31 because it teaches us about what kind of love leaders we need on the planet. We need love architects, love alchemists, love listeners, people who lead beside, not above or below. People that aren't leading from a place of greed or power, but from a place of love and humility. The humble leaders call forward. So let's look at Gene Key 4 because that seems to play a big role in what we're being called to right now, which is the city of forgiveness, the gift of understanding, the shadow of intolerance. The shadow of intolerance. is based on how we feel. It is reactionary. It partners with that shadow of reaction. It's the idea, I feel this thing, so I've got to react. I feel this thing, so it must be true. It's basing your choices and your decisions on feeling and not the eye of your heart, not what you know to be true as your divinity. So a tolerance bases its beliefs on emotions and it makes a judgment. It will either create something that's like apathetic, com contracted and collapsed, or nitpicky. So in other words, we can look at any of these shadow states that we react out of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, right? Um, because it's a fear frequency, and we react out of a place of wounding. So with the shadow of intolerance is like our little inner victim, who you can recognize your inner victim by this. Am I blaming or complaining? When you're blaming or complaining, that's your inner victim that needs some loving and some presence. So do you blame others? That's the shadow of intolerance. Do you think that some answer is going to bring you security? How many of us are feeling that right now? Like, if I just knew, like, we're being lied to. We know this. Truth isn't there because what we're seeing in stories played out, not just in this one, but in everything. There's a part of our soul, there's a part of us that is the soul that knows we're being lied to. This isn't the truth. So then the mind wants to say, well, if I just had the answers, it would make me feel safe. If I just knew, then I could feel safe. If I could control, I would feel safe. The call to action here is, am I willing to take responsibility for myself? Am I willing to go into those wounds, into my fears, and to offer myself love and grace to transform those fears, that fear of intolerance, to the gift of understanding? The gift of understanding is, are you going to choose a side or are you going to choose understanding? Here's our prayer here. I carry the gift to understand people, or you could say inner-stand people, which supports my heart to create new systems that bring positive changes. Are you a good listener? Do you listen to get your point across? What's the tone in your voice when you speak? Is your tone condescending, judgmental? Tone never lies. Tone is your frequency. And only through the frequency of love, only through the frequency of heart, really are we going to be able to be understood. And truly, most people just want to be heard. They just want somebody to listen to them. They want to be seen. How many of you feel misunderstood? The gift of understanding is a powerful gift to give ourselves and other people. It leads us to the way of forgiveness. And once you get forgiveness, you get it. Richard Rohr, I love you. Prophet in our time. It's like the phrase falling in love. Forgiveness is the same thing. It's this great mystery that we fall into. And that mystery is God, the good, Allah, love. God forgives all things for being imperfect. All mystics, everyone who risks everything to know God, will meet a lover and not a dictator. How many scientists find their way to mysticism? How many atheists find their way to God? Because they question and they seek. And eventually, all of our seeking will lead us to meet a lover, not a dictator. Because we are created in the image of God. We are created in the image of the good. We are created in the image of love. It's who we are. And the more that unveiling happens, apocalypse, by the way, meaning unveiling, evil, meaning God veiled, the more that's unveiled, the more we're all coming to remember who we actually are. So the lies are we can see them, we can feel them. We can see them with our heart's eye. We can feel them with our essence. We know that we're being lied to. So are we going to keep playing out the shadow of intolerance? Or are we going to play out the story of forgiveness? And once we know forgiveness, we know it. To be forgiven is to know God. You can trust yourself because God trusts you. Forgiveness to be given to beforehand. It's grace. You're already given this gift before you earned it, or before you were worthy of it, or before you asked for it. Grace is a gift. We are in an era of grace. It's a gift that we simply receive. And every single one of us is created in the image of this goodness, this God. Every single one of us. So beyond all religious stories and all the beliefs and everything, every story that's been told beyond theology, the call is simply to know ourselves as created in love, to love. Created in this love allows us to forgive. All right, let's dive back in. So we see now this city was where the sun was last week. It's where our south node is right now. Go again, I had to sneeze. Okay. The city of forgiveness is our south node. This is a story that's playing out right now. It's our foundation. May we all really contemplate where we can be in a space of understanding and where we can offer ourselves forgiveness and someone else forgiveness right now. Remember, this is the south node. We're in this for a few months. We get to contemplate this. Where do you need to forgive yourself? Because that's where it begins. What aspects of yourself, what part of yourself have you not forgiven? You haven't set them free. I was abused in high school and I held on to that. Even after the relationship ended and I was set free in that way, I wasn't set free for over a decade or more because it wasn't until I actually offered forgiveness that I was set free from that. And all those wounds were transmuted and transformed into medicine, into love that I get to share. I get to hold more love now because God moving through me allowed me to forgive horrific things. It allowed me to bring those aspects of my soul back home. And for me, that gift of forgiveness was forgiving myself and then also forgiving this person. And I did that by uh, praying over him and seeing him as a little boy before he was ever wounded himself, before he ever harmed anyone, because he didn't know love of a father and mother the way we're all meant to know the love of the father and the mother. So where do you still need to forgive yourself? What parts of yourself have you still not taken responsibility for? Who in your life are you still blaming for something? Where are you ready to forgive and set yourself free? The only way to be free is to learn and fall. I don't think we even learn it. It's a practice. Forgiveness is a practice. I know for me, I had to practice it over and over again until one day I was set free from it and I actually could let God within me offer that love to another. Is there anyone that you feel ready to forgive in your life now? Let's talk about Aquarius. Aquarius is the water bearer. It's the archetype of the humanitarian, the revolutionary, philanthropy. It moves us forward. It points us towards the future, as above, so below. It is a call that teaches us that the inner world is reflected in the outer world, and you're responsible for your inner world. Some of the miracles that were performed during Aquarius were turning water into wine, feeding of the multitude, which teaches us about prosperity, abundance, the abundance of God, walking on water, faith, radical faith. Whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. It becomes in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. The internal, the living temple, the internal well, this is what we're responsible for. So this is the time, this is what Aquarius is calling us to, that then guides us to this future that we're here to create. Let's talk about gate 6. if we go back, Mars in Virgo was in gene key 6. So that's what we're going to talk about. What was the call of Mars? Okay. Mars. Mars is connected. Um, Mars teaches us about our passionate heart. And Mars was in Virgo on the day of the assassination. Um, and it was transiting through gate or gene key 6. In human design, this is the gate of friction. It's a penetrating energy, it's emotional. It can be defensive, it can create conflict. Okay. Ultimately, it's fighting for love, but it needs to wait. It doesn't need to be reactionary, right? How do you handle extreme emotional states of being? How do you react when you're emotionally charged? Are you grounded emotionally? Are you somebody that gets upset about something and then immediately reacts? Are you a keyboard warrior? Did you immediately go and need to have your voice heard? Nothing wrong or bad. I'm just stating how we react. And do we wait and pause before we react? Do you have practices that allow you to feel and to listen and to move your emotions through the body? Because we can't come to the Siddhic level of peace without understanding and being responsible for our emotional states of being. I believe also, and when I'm working with people in their soul blueprint, I think this is the most important that we need to contemplate within ourselves, especially now, is our emotions. Because we are not we're disconnected from indigenous wisdom, we're disconnected from initiation, and we are not taught to honor our emotions. From a child speaks their emotions as a baby. Their cries speak different things. They hear us through not only our energy and our essence, but through our eye contact. They speak volumes just through the eyes. And then we're taught as children whether it's safe to actually express our emotions from the very first time we express our emotions. And so if we feel the emotion of anger coming out and that is silenced or we get punished, we might immediately make a belief that it's not safe to feel that emotion. So we repress it or we use it to get attention. This is a deeper discussion. But understand that peace comes from understanding our emotional states of being. So in the body, this gene key is about balancing our pH level, acidity and alkalinity for cells to thrive. We know that in a body that's alkaline, cancer cells don't thrive, right? There needs to be a balance here. So at the shadow level, conflict is where we either repress or we react. So it's emotional repression from shame, guilt, abuse, from not feeling safe to express your emotions. How many of you feel safe to express your emotions? You feel safe that no matter what emotion comes up, you're still going to be loved by that person. You're still going to be accepted. You're going to be understood. You're not going to be rejected or abused or harmed. Are we free to express our emotions? So one way we do this, we repress them, and this creates people pleasers. They compromise themselves, in other words, to control the environment. Distrusting other people, they put up the wall. The other way is we react. Unable to control your emotions, you're somebody who vents and projects your emotions out into the world. You're not able to take responsibility, so your emotions rule you. You lash out, you storm out, and this can create violence. Honestly, one creates violence within, one creates violence outwardly. And this is the shadow that's responsible for all division amongst the nations and all war, because it's based in duality. Richard Rudd says the emotional problems are the greatest cause of illness on our planet. Are you addicted to conflict and struggle? Here's another thing. We're addicted to drama. We're addicted to conflict. How many apocalyptic movies or TV shows can be created and people still soak them up? Addicted to conflict and struggle. Are you addicted to the struggle and you keep cycling and self-sabotaging? So the gift of diplomacy is the ability to adjust your behavior to create harmonious exchange. Are you able to speak your truth in a loving way? Are you a good listener? Are you able to hear somebody else's side of the story? Are you able to be like the eagle and fly above and have a view of everybody's kind of whys and such? Can you go back to go forward? Diplomacy is tactful honesty. You know the correct moment and the words to use with a loving frequency. Tone is everything. In your relationships, there's a balance of giving and receiving, of listening and expressing. Again, there's a balance of divine masculine and divine feminine within. There's a deep awareness of your own emotional patterns. You know your triggers. You know your patterns. You know your waves. You know how to take care of yourself. You know what to do. I'm a facilitator in something called elemental embodiment, a genius frequency. And in that, we help people get back into their body by supporting them through breath, through their hands, through these practices, to allow the motion to come up, to allow ourselves to unwind traumas, unwind the wounds with ease and grace, and to move it out of the body. There are ways that we can move our emotions and we can be informed by them instead of reacting and destroying ourselves and one another because our emotions are running wild. Can you sense conflict before it arises? And then are you able to diffuse it? Because you can sense it. True diplomacy operates through your field, your aura, your spiritual body. You're responsible for that. The inner world will take care of the outer world. And the alchemist is somebody who will gradually bring peace to the world. The love alchemist is devoted to the alchemy of love, bringing love into every aspect of our lives. And this leads to peace. The peace is a knowing that we were never separate. It moves beyond dualism. It's that middle path, and we need a middle path more so than ever in the United States. That middle path when we can see, oh, I'm gonna sneeze again. When we can see the extreme stories playing out, the extreme wounds that create reaction on both sides, on any side. The only way forward is the middle path, and that's the middle path is the way to peace. And that's the true nature. It reminds us that the kingdom of heaven was always here. We're gardeners of the earth. We're gardeners of Eden. We are living stars, living peacemakers. And this is what I believe Yeshua came to teach. This is what Mary came to teach. Mary the mother, Mary the beloved, the apostle to the apostle, Mary the sister. The three Marys teach us something. Yeshua teaches us something. And both of those somethings together are profound and powerful and bring us back into sovereignty and the consciousness of Christ and the consciousness of light. And that story is written in the stars. Okay, I want to remind you that you came here with your own seed, that you have your own innate genius within you, and that seed contains everything in it that you need to grow and harvest your dreams. There's a knowing within you, a knowing who you are and why you're here. This is your soil, your soul. Beyond all your fears, the old ancient stories, the generational wounds, childhood conditioning, the religious beliefs, the government, the schools, all of that is to remember to see the world with the eye of your heart. To see with your eye of your heart and to awaken the intelligence of this temple, this body, this living intelligence. The last thing I want to talk about today is this North Node period that we're in, changing the world from the inside out. The change we need starts within ourselves. Peace within me creates peace in the world. This shadow of reaction was playing out in our North Node now, And it's the call for a rebirth. A real shift is possible on the planet. I mean, I believe we're at and we're over the tipping point. It's happening. It's so obvious and clear to so many. And if it's obvious and clear to you, then you're responsible to embody more love than you might even know you're able to carry. Okay, do you react out of fear or rejection? This is the shadow of reaction. Do you freeze? In other words, here we can look at that again: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. What's holding you back? What's keeping you stuck? Where are you still blocked? It's up to you to bring this stuff forward, because it's time to expand beyond. Expand my territory. Expand me so that I can be the hands and feet in service of love and grace and goodness. It's time for the revolution. And that this revolution is a silent one. It doesn't need to be seen. It doesn't need to be shared on social media. It may be, but it's not necessary. It's happening out here in the world where you're meeting people on the streets and offering them an ear to listen, a meal to sit with them and share a meal together. What kind of revolutionary act of love or peace can you offer the world right now as a bridge? Where can you meet somebody that has a completely opposite belief than you and sit and love and just contemplate these things together? Where do they come from? Are you able to just listen? Are you able to walk away from that in love? How can we diffuse the shadow of violence and division on the planet? And that says, am I willing to look at my own beliefs and have things within myself questioned? Am I willing to be wrong? I'm willing to take responsibility for myself. Quantum leaps happen here because at the highest level, our soul is here reminding us that we were never separate from the divine. We were never separated from God. We're actually divine beings that get to be in this physical vessel on earth. And that's the thing we're missing. That's the thing we want to remember. When you've forgotten who you are and when you're not living your zenith, your genius, sharing your specific gifts that nobody else has but you, you're likely to fall into anxiety or depression or be angry, be violent. I see you in that because the whole world has been created, not the whole world, but there's been a great blanket put upon us, a great mask that's tried to fit us all in boxes and control us and manipulate us, divide us. It's just been, you could say it's been an opportunity to remember. I want you to remember that you're a source of light from the great source, the source. You hold within you a unique genius that is living and it's meant to be shared. And if you're not sharing it, I guarantee you there's something pulling you towards that. Something in you, the old self wants to die away that's been disconnected from that. It will cause sadness and grief within you. The last thing I want to say is that what we're in coming up this week then is Gene Key 29, leaping into the void. And we have a partial eclipse. So we always look at eclipses because there's a deep message in what is being eclipsed within us. What shadow is coming to the surface to be unveiled. And this is the lesson for us. It's a leap into the devotional heart to see and feel and experience through devotion to God, to devotion to your specific gifts, your soul's genius. It's to be committed. What are you going to commit yourself to? And then we look at where are we just moving through things half-heartedly. So the devotional path is the bhakti path. It's the path of the devotional heart. It's to live in awe and wonder, to be devoted to the divine, to be devoted to the will of God, to be devoted to radical responsibility for my own pain and wounds, and to be radically responsible for I'm God's daughter and God's my boss, and I'm responsible to show up every day as that being on earth. Am I devoted to the path of my soul? Are you devoted to the soul? Are you willing to let everything else fall away? Are you willing to take wild leaps of faith? We we're going to Egypt in like 50 days, 50 some days. I don't know. The 40 days begins Friday, September 24th, I believe. Something like that. 40 days that leads up to our time in Egypt. We're going to be doing a 40 days of peace and prosperity leading up to that. Those that are going on the pilgrimage, and then those who just want to be devoted to peace and prosperity for 40 days together. Um, but I thought I was going to go to Egypt next year. And the people that have already signed up and said yes, they said, "Oh, Egypt was on my heart, but I didn't know it was going to be now." And when God called us to come to Egypt in November in this prayer of peace on this pilgrimage, I myself, my egoic self, my lower self said, "That's not possible. How could that be possible?" And I went into all the whys, but I didn't stay in that because my heart was ready to leap. My whole body lit up with the yes. That I knew this was where God was calling me. And what I know from my path of devotion is that when I leap into that, miracles follow. Every day becomes miraculous because God, love is everything. The good is everything. It's all there actually is. It's true. And so, of course, we normalize miracles in this space. Of course, the exact amount that's needed for the plane or for the ticket is going to show up, that and more, because I leaped in with my heart first. And so I'm loving the stories of those who have already said yes and are going because the exact amount for the plane ticket is showing up in a check that shows up in the mail. You've all heard these stories. You've experienced these things. Everywhere they go, there's little signs of Egypt, and we're going to be going back to Coptic Christian sites and studying the Divine Mother in early Christianity, as well as in the Sufi and in ancient Egypt, the Golden Era. Um, we're going to be spending time in the elements, and this, if had I not chose devotion, this wouldn't be happening. If I didn't say, yes, I will guide this group there, I will. And if you are in a place of leadership and you're choosing the way of leadership in love and not in, I'm above somebody, but I'm walking beside, so what happens, what you'll experience is you will usually go through the thing before you're going to walk another person through that. So I want to say this to you because your devoted heart is that everything that you've been through, especially the hardest, most painful wounds that you've experienced, the most painful suffering you've been through, that is equal to the heights of the greatest gifts you're here to give to the world. So you walk it before. That's the path of devotion. There's madness in devotion. The bhakti heart is mad because you're mad in love with the divine. You're madly in love with God. You'll leave the mind to follow the wild devotion of your own sacred heart. So, where are you making leaps in devotion in your life? That's what's being called to right now. No more of this half-heartedness. How many times do you have a dream or a vision and you know that it's for good. It's going to be in service. And that's what we can ask ourselves. Is this in service of the good? And how many times do you know that? But then the fearful part of you says, how could that happen? That's not possible. And so you go into it half-heartedly. There's nothing worth doing in this life unless it's done with an absolute commitment, with a whole heart. Because without commitment, you lack the power, the direction. It's like you're scattered, your energy is scattered, but a devotional heart is like powerful and potent and aligned. It's a faithful heart. You can ask yourself some of these questions. Do you give up the first sign of discomfort or trouble? You say, "Oh, it wasn't for me then," because it's not It's not easy. Or are you able to see the challenge that arises as an opportunity for more of God's grace and goodness and miracles? Can you come into that place of discomfort or challenge and say, all right, challenge on. I'm a daughter of God. I'm a son of God. I- I'm ready. Show me. Show me the miracle here. Let me be a vessel for this miracle. Maybe you and your friends are, or your family members are at war with each other right now because you have different beliefs. You're seeing the stories played out through different lenses. Maybe you think there's no way back to peace in your family. Maybe you think there's no way back to peace in your community. In that discomfort, can you sit in that? Can you bring love and grace into that and see a miracle unfolding? Maybe your relationship even strengthened because of it. Oh, wow. When we were at Standing Rock, I'm remembering stories of tribes that were still kind of uh, like nasty with each other, not physically fighting each other, but still like speaking nasty of one another, not coming together in a good way. And everybody came together in a good way there. There was so much healing that happened. There was also like sons of colonels who had done harm and wrong and killed different tribes, been at war with them. And those grandsons came and offered peace and friendship and walked away as brothers. What's possible beyond this is what we all know in our hearts is what we're here for. So, are you ready to face your deepest fears? Are you ready to look at your shadows? Are you willing to be tested? And I'll say tested is just to see that there will be, once the closer you move towards the great unveiling where God's completely unveiled, you'll think you're being challenged more or tested more, but you're just seeing and experiencing more. And there's just becoming more clear where it wasn't as clear before. So there's just more opportunities for alchemy. And you can move through them faster because you clearly see with your heart's eye the truth. This is, you know, God is the source of your supply. This earth is a very prosperous place. If you turned off the news and you just were put into a community of people and grew food together and ate suppers together, you'd find wonderful things to chat and communicate about, to come together in a good way. Are you going to remain a victim? Or are you going to become a co-creator with creator for your life? Are you overcommitted into your life, or is there something that isn't serving you that you're ready to let go of? And here's two big questions you can ask. Am I somebody that's reliable? Am I trustworthy? Am I devoted to the divine? Because our devotion and our commitment is linked to our peace and prosperity. It's a balance of commitment and surrender. You're surrendering to the will of God. You're surrendering to this path of divinity, of love, of grace. And that great surrender is to receive, to know you get to be in a state of receptivity and receive. I just want to share one last thing here. Talking about some science here. Cellular cycles last for 7 years. So we go through these 7-year developmental periods. Every 7 years, the body has the opportunity to replace with renewable cells, depending on what we're fueling our bodies with. You could become a totally new person. If you stop smoking cigarettes 7 years from now, your lungs will be fresh and clean again, brand new, right? Same with our patterns. We can break patterns in 40 days. That's a really good beginning practice. But real patterns that we stay devoted to over 7 years will make quantum leaps in who we are here to be. So we're in this 2020 to 27, and we can see, especially in the United States, but in the whole collective, we can see we're having opportunities for rebirth. There's a great story being played out in the stars. I want you to remember who you are. I want you to live your life and see through the eye of your heart. I want you to understand the path of devotion, to know who you are and be devoted to that. There's beautiful opportunity here for peace. There's beautiful opportunity here to experience a way forward that's miraculous, just like when those 5 tribes came together at the Tree of War, pulling up those roots, those wounds. Every shadow of the gene key, we can experience that as our genetic wounding, places that we still think we're separate from God and separate from nature and separate from one another. We've been sold a story of separation. And I want to inspire you to the story of wholeness that ends all healing journeys because we simply come home to wholeness. You are human, you are divine, you're here to experience both. And when you see that and experience that within yourself, you're able to give others that grace. You can see why a brother or sister is acting or reacting the way they have. You can see why your wounds have played out in a certain way. And then coming into grace to receive the gift of grace, which is salvation, redemption, rebirth. The only way is through walking in grace. So my prayer is that you be immersed in grace, that you receive grace in ways that miracles are normalized. That's what I'm here for. I love you. There is a beautiful story being played out in the stars. It's calling us forward in a good way. And it's up to us which story we're going to play out. Are we going to continue to stay in that story that creates division? Are we going to get lost in the news and the media? Are we going to stay true to who we are here to be and go out into the world in faith, in trust, in love, in presence? This is the way forward. The other thing that there's an opportunity to be tested on, an opportunity for real alchemy, is in prosperity. So I am going to guide a 40 days of peace and prosperity. If you're curious or interested in that, I've guided 40 days of grace, 40 days of faith. I love 40-day meditational practices, especially when we do them as a group. And so if you're interested in that, let me know. If you're interested in joining Living Stars, it's an amazing space, a community where we just get together. We contemplate the script of the stars reflected in ourselves. If you want to know who you are, your soul blueprint gives you a map of that. It's really fantastic. It's wonderful. It really allows us to see these are my gifts, this is my genius, and this is what I'm responsible to alchemize on the planet within myself. And then in Living Stars, you can kind of see where those patterns are showing up, where you might be feeling something more than somebody else because it's already written, that part is written within you. So you actually feel the energy more because it's already within you. I have Gene Key 6 in my chart. So anytime we move through anything planetary with Gene Key 6, I feel it deeply. I have the 49th in my chart. So this eclipse, I'm feeling it deeply because my soul is asking and inviting me to contemplate and alchemize those higher states of being. That's my gift to offer the world. So we do this in Living Stars. This is my medicine, my magic in the world, the way that I love. I also love through elemental embodiment sessions, which allows us to move this through the body and allow our vessel to hold more, be a bigger capacity to move in this world with ease and grace. And then there's a group of us going to Egypt, and I'll just put this here because we still have 6 more spots. There are 12 spots. There are 6 that were full yes the moment they heard it. They're already being initiated and experiencing a lot of miracles. The way that I operate with Eye of the Heart retreats, my daughter and I guide these retreats together with other people when we go to other places. So we're going to be guiding this with Akara Sophia and Hassan and another man. He's an Egyptologist, and an archaeologist. I can't remember his name though. Sorry about that. I apologize. I can see it. Anyways, so this Egypt pilgrimage, there'll be 5 of us sharing our medicine and guidance. but we'll also be experiencing our own alchemy on the trip. That's how it works. We have 6 more spots for that. And these pilgrimages are ways for us to choose a living experience in a group in a place on the earth to really come home and alchemize our higher gifts, our higher calling through experience, through community, through travel, experiencing different cultures, experiencing different places. You know, if you travel, the alchemy that happens when we are in a physical space and what's possible there. Eye of the Heart retreats bring us back to see the world through the eye of the heart. It's part retreat, it's part pilgrimage, it's part service or mission. And I want to share my daughter and I, we wanted to share a different way to approach these we guide before. So we prepare before the actual physical pilgrimage. And then there's integration and being held after you return. So it's not just the experience of going for the 2 weeks. You're held before, during, and after. And so if that calls you, if it sparks something in you, if Egypt is whispering or screaming to you, let me know if one of those spots is yours. And let me know how I can hold you and pray with you and be in presence. Let's just drop back into our hearts and our breath before we close out. Giving thanks, giving thanks. Aha. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God, the good, our perfect mother, our perfect father, our perfect boss, our perfect provider. Thank you for reminding us that we are gardeners of Eden, living lights on this planet. Your love alchemists, your servants, your vessels, move in and through us. Show us where we can cultivate more peace within ourselves. Show us where we can calm our emotions, or not even calm them, but move them in a good way and listen to them and respond to them in a good way. Let them come forward and be expressed in a good way, that we not harm ourselves or harm others emotionally, but that we bring grace and love into those wounds, into those fears. Unveil yourself more and more and more with each breath. Unveil yourself, the good, love, grace, creator, inviting us to co-create with you. We hear you inviting us back into wholeness, back into peace and harmony, that forgiveness is the way, that understanding is the way, that peace within me creates peace in the world. Remind us each of our unique and innate gifts that we're here to share, and how important and vital these gifts are to the world. Remind everyone that hears this message that you came with a gift that only you can share, a genius that is yours. Every single being on this planet has their own genius to share. Thank you for helping us to remember who we are, to walk in grace, expand our territory, move through us in prosperity and peace and goodness and grace. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it is so.